United fans, we're all crazy jealous of your winger right now. How good is it to see Marcus Rashford scoring goals again? He's been ridiculous since Ten Hag came in, and on current form alone, we reckon he's the best striker in the world at the moment. But it hasn't been an easy year for the English forward. We all know what happened at the Euros final, and it went downhill for a while after that. Rashford's turned it all around though, and he's back at his best. So how has he managed to do it? Join us now as we look at how Rashford has become the best striker in the world this season. Stick with us until the end, and we'll show you the latest record he's managed to smash so far this campaign. Injury woes. If you were living under a rock and somehow missed it, Marcus Rashford was one of the players that missed a penalty for England in the Euros final. He sent Donnarumma the wrong way, but dragged his shot into the post, and England went on to lose the game. Saka missed a penalty that night too, but he managed to kick straight on and get back to his best for Arsenal. But Rashford on the other hand, well, it wasn't all that easy for him. A few months before the Euros, it was reported that the United striker had been playing through a variety of injuries. His shoulder, back and feet were all hurt. It was even reported by ESPN that he hadn't played a game at 100% health in over 2 years. So once he got back from the Euros, club specialists said that Rashford should have surgery as soon as possible. He went in for his operations in late July 2020 and ended up missing the first 2 months of the new season. He didn't return to training until the 11th of October. 5 days later, Rashford made his Premier League comeback, where he came off the bench and scored against Leicester. Sounds good, right? But it wasn't plain sailing after that. At one point, he went 13 games without scoring. That's not the Marcus Rashford we'd fallen in love with. While he'd been gone, Ralf Rangnick had become the new manager at Manchester United. But he hadn't been impressed with the winger's inconsistencies. Rashford found himself dipping in and out of the squad, and it was hard to see where his rebound would come from. The Austrian gaffer still had praise for him though, and he called him one of the best forwards in England. We think Rashford was simply in a rut. He was becoming more and more upset with every missed shot. It was an awful couple of seasons for him, and the vision of him missing that penalty in the final must have been printed in his mind. Could he ever go back to being his old self? United fans were growing just as restless with his poor performances. It all bubbled over in March 2022 though. After a bad 1-0 loss to Atletico Madrid, he was heckled by his own fans outside of the team bus. And well, he made the bad decision of arguing back, with one of the men abusing him, and of course someone recorded their little beef. Shortly after, rumours began to fly about a potential move to PSG. It almost felt like he was being pushed out of the club. The fans that once loved him wanted him gone, and they were ready to take every dollar they could by selling him to the first bidder. Across the 21-22 season, he made a total of 24 Premier League appearances, but he only scored 4 goals in the process. It was a season to forget for both Rashford and United fans in general. But he was determined not to become another failed wonder kid. Preparation in pre-season. He travelled across the pond to the USA for a short getaway in June 2022. While he was here, he spent a week partying with a former teammate and close friend, Jesse Lingard. They soaked up the nightlife, explored clubs all around Florida, and then went their separate ways. From here, Rashford jetted off to Los Angeles. He wanted some quality family time and hung out with his childhood sweetheart, Lucia Liu. The couple had been together since 2014 where they met during their high school days, and Rashford finally popped the question and proposed to her. How sweet is that? It was the perfect way to spend their holiday. But it wasn't celebrations for long for Rashford, as he was spotted in the gym just a few days later, back in Miami. The Englishman looked shredded as he worked out with dumbbells in a post on his Instagram story. All of this personal time was great for his mental health, as he struggled with depression issues following the racial abuse he faced after the Euros. But despite the partying in America, it was clear he still had his head screwed on tightly, and he looked in the best shape he had ever been in. Putting pen to paper. Even being as busy as he was though, Rashford still found time to do something special. He's always tried to use his platform for good, and once again he proved that life is way more important than football. Rashford's made some huge political changes in the UK, and he distracted himself from his poor form by doing even more over that summer. He teamed up with Macmillan Publishers to help vulnerable and underprivileged children get into reading. They formed a book club, which distributed over 50,000 books to poorer children for free. In a statement, the striker said that children should never be robbed of the escapism of reading. It's just one of the many reasons we love him, right? Ten Hag's new favourite. However, we think the biggest factor regarding Rashford's resurgence was the appointment of a new manager. He didn't get on too well with Ralf Rangnick as we talked about earlier, and Erik replaced him as head coach in the summer. The Dutch maestro instantly saw something special in our boy. While Ronaldo was too busy crying to Piers Morgan, Rashford was ready and waiting in the ranks. Ten Hag trusted him to replace the goat-sized hole in their attack force. He had previously been playing as a left winger, and so it was something completely different for the Englishman, but it worked, and Rashford transformed into a beast overnight. United's harsh rivals Liverpool were first to feel the effect. He opened his account for the season with a goal in a 2-1 win over the Reds, and then he followed it up with another 2 goals in a 3-1 win over title challengers Arsenal. And by October, he had already matched his goal count from last season. It took him just 12 games to do so. On the 30th of October, Rashford scored his 100th goal for Manchester United. That made him the 22nd player in history to reach this figure, and the first person to do it since Wayne Rooney 13 years ago. He was, and he still is, on fire. Rashford was bagging goals for fun, but he was also playing with a smile on his face, and it's probably the first time we've seen him having fun with football since the Euros final back in 2020. It's heartwarming for us fans worldwide to finally see him happy once again. Think back to how he was playing last season, when United were ready to cut their losses and sell him off. And now, just a few months later, he was offered a 1-year extension on his contract in late December. Could we have ever predicted that at the end of last season? We don't think anybody could have. At the time of recording, he scored 22 goals in all competitions so far this campaign. And don't forget, he's only played 35 games. Even topped it off with a massive goal at the Camp Nou against Barcelona in the Europa League knockout stage. That's a crazy place to score at. Rashford scored 5 and 5 earlier on this season, but this run of form right now is genuinely phenomenal. We think he's the best striker in the world, and we don't even think that anyone else comes close. It's been a sensational turnaround, so what records has he broken during this run? Record breaker Rashford. Well, he's had a few, and we'll name a couple. Rashford tied a club record that has stood since 1959 in January. He scored in 9 consecutive home games at Old Trafford. That tied Dennis Violet's record, who set it in the Busby Babes era. Rashford didn't manage to break it, as he failed to score against Charlton in the next game, but that's still an insane tally to hit. And with his goal against Barca at the Camp Nou, he also matched a personal record. Rashford bagged his 22nd goal of the season, as we said earlier again, which ties the most that he's ever netted in one campaign. And let's face it, by the time we publish this video, he's probably already scored at least another one and broken his record anyway. Either way, we think there's still plenty of records for Rashford to smash in what could be a historic season for the striker. Do you think Rashford is the best in the world right now? Let us know with a comment down below.